Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we're reviewing Fender Bender from Scream Factory, a crash course in terror.
Written and directed by Mark Pavia, starring Makenzie Vega, Dre Davis, and Bill Sage, Fender Bender is about an innocent high school girl who gets into her first accident. After exchanging information, she finds herself the next target of a serial killer. What do we like about this movie?
I thought our killer was pretty cool. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are gonna think he's kinda weird because he's in a bondage mask and all that stuff, but I thought the mask was actually pretty scary in a sense. It kind of looked like something from Slipknot or like My Bloody Valentine in such a way that you just don't know who the killer is.
Yeah, it had a nice like gas mask, bondage with the teeth. It was a nice mask. Now, it wasn't the best mask I've seen, but I think it served its purpose. He had like a consistent look with all the black. So, you know, it's hard to get a character design right, but I think they did one that suited the movie.
And the whole concept of why he even exists in the first place is actually really unique. They basically took a situation that a lot of people experience and put a twist on it so that now you might be afraid of that situation the next time it occurs. In this case, it's a simple fender bender.
Yeah, the idea of saying, you know, you exchange information and you assume that to be nothing dangerous, and, you know, all of a sudden it's like, hey, actually, you know, you just given your information to a stranger. I think that's a really cool concept. I actually wanted to see more of that explored. The
production value of this movie was fairly high. We had some pretty decent cinematography. We had some nice tracking shots and long takes, especially down a specific hallway, which we'll get to in our dislikes because it did repeat quite a bit, but in general, everything looked really clean and polished.
The music was really well done. I thought whoever composed the music for this did a really great job. I think it hit the emotions perfectly, really added to the atmosphere and the emotion of the movie. What didn't we like about this movie?
I think the biggest fault of this film is the way that it's edited and how long shots stay on screen. There's a lot of situations where the audience is going to understand what's happening, and they keep shots on to just make sure that it is instilled in people's brains, like, that's the killer's car out that window. You better focus on that for 45 seconds before we move this camera.
The problem with that is that, like, when it's a minute-long scene as opposed to what should be a 20 to 30-second scene, is you start chatting in between those moments, right? And then you look up at the screen and it's like, it's still going. So any emotional weight or tension that's trying to be built is lost because you're just losing your attention.
And this touches on what I was talking about, the cinematography. This girl just keeps walking up and down this one hallway, and so they have just these very long shots going up and down, probably 10 times in the movie, and by the third time, you're already sick of seeing it.
Yeah.
And they don't do anything inventive with the hallway. Like, there were deep shadows in the back that they could have had the killer jump out from. That doesn't happen, so it's actually really meaningless.
And the sad thing is that you learn that it's an extensive property. There's actually many more rooms that we don't spend any time in. The fact that they focused on this one hallway multiple times with multiple characters just seems like a waste of what they had to work with. One of my complaints was the main character, she had two friends that ended up coming over, and they actually had great chemistry when they were hanging out and joking around. And I wish there was more of that. For most of the movie, it's just one character alone. That interaction that they had, I think, would have made the movie have more emotional weight.
In not having Hillary, our final girl, with other people, she's actually kind of boring by herself. Yeah. So she's a ballet dancer, and she's left alone in her house, and she really doesn't have many interesting things to do. She basically just walks around her house. She doesn't turn on any music. She doesn't really do anything. She just has a shower.
Just like picture yourself at home. It's like, I mean, it's not that boring. You kind of put on music, you maybe grab a snack, you sit down, you read a book, or you turn on the TV, and it's just like, it was noticeable that none of that stuff was happening. So you're just like, it's kind of boring. Even like a dog or something to spice it up.
Yeah, anything that to have the main character interact with anything would be great. The furthest extent was her turning on light switches in such a way that it seemed like she's never turned on a light switch in her own house. Like, that's mega nitpicky, But it's one of those things that really separates a good actor from a mediocre actor.
Yeah, I think it all ties into those shots.
They should have switched from the wide shot of somebody walking around touching all these lights to the switch being flicked, because you wouldn't see that awkwardness. And so this comes down to, like, I think editing is the biggest problem of this entire film.
We do complain a lot about like pacing and editing, but it's just that I think because we watch so many movies, it's noticeable on extent of like timing of movies. It's like a pet peeve of ours when something is an hour and 30 minutes when it can be told in an hour and 10.
I also don't think that they should have shown us the killer. You learn the killer immediately. There's no red herrings in the movie, and there's no like build up to try and figure out who the killer is, because you actually meet him within the first 30 seconds of the film.
Yeah, so which is weird that they would choose to put him in a mask because we know who it is.
There's nobody else in the movie that they even pretend that the killer is. It's the guy that you know. And they make it very obvious because they have so many different shots of him just placed throughout the movie that shouldn't have been there. If they removed those and you kind of forgot about the Fender Bender to begin with, then you're like, who's the killer?
It's time for our final thoughts and ratings.
Fender Bender was an alright slasher. There's nothing too over the top. It's not something that everybody should go out and watch, but it's not a bad film in any way. The cinematography was great. I thought the killer was pretty cool looking, and we do have some pretty decent special effects. Unfortunately, the movie suffered because of its editing. A lot of shots are held way too long, and it does get a little boring, especially if you're watching with somebody because you're gonna be talking to them, or if you're watching alone, you might be reaching for your phone at moments and not really paying too much attention to the movie. So I'm gonna give this 2 sorry cakes out of 5.
I agree with Jay pretty much completely. I think the timing was off. Scenes needed to be cut down. The killer was cool. I think maybe some more motivation for him. I think more times exploring the characters overall would have made this a better movie. It kind of feels like a starter slasher. It's like if you're gonna watch like a slasher for the first time or show someone as a slasher, it's like an easy step into the slasher genre. It wasn't overly crazy, but it wasn't really that flawed either. So I'm gonna give this 2.5 Dance Mom license plates out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, there are links in the description where you can find it. And this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything Bloodbath and beyond.